October 4th, 2017, outside Tongo village near the Mali border. Team Ouallam found themselves caught in open terrain as over 50 militants executed a textbook L-shaped ambush. The math was catastrophic. 11 U.S. Special Forces and 30 Nigerian partners against a coordinated assault force armed with truck-mounted heavy weapons, RPGs, and mortars. Stripped of armor, air support, and heavy weapons in enemy-infested terrain, the team had seconds to realize they weren't facing a random ambush. They'd walked straight into a meticulously planned execution. 12 hours earlier, Team Ouallam's convoy departs Camp Ouallam. Captain Michael Perazeni commanding from the lead vehicle, his team leaders spread through the formation. Staff Sergeant Bryan Black commands the second vehicle with 3 operators. Staff Sergeant Dustin Wright controls Vehicle 3 with his fire team. Staff Sergeant Jeremiah Johnson rides in Vehicle 4. Sergeant David Johnson, the youngest at 25, drives Vehicle 5. The 6th vehicle carries their Nigerian partner's commander. 6 vehicles, 11 Americans, 30 Nigerians, moving in column through the scrubland. Wright checks his chest pocket, photo of his 3-year-old son. Same one he touches before every mission. Black jokes over the radio about getting home for his anniversary next week. David, on his first deployment, drums his fingers on the steering wheel to calm pre-patrol nerves. At 1140 hours, their seemingly mundane day gets flipped on its head. PKM fire erupts from the tree line 200 meters to their north. Long bursts walking across Perazeni's led vehicle. RPGs streak in from concealed positions to the east, impacting around Black's vehicle, showering it with rocks and shrapnel. The convoy lurches to a halt, caught in an L-shaped ambush with fires from 2 directions creating overlapping fields of destruction. The smell of cordite and diesel fuel floods the air. The metallic ping of rounds hitting vehicle armor sounds like deadly rain. Perazeni immediately recognizes the tactical geometry. North, machine gun positions in the tree line, elevated with clear fields of fire. East, RPG teams using termite mounds for cover. South, their only escape route but 300 meters of open ground to reach a small ridge line. West, the direction they came from, but 50 meters ahead the road is blocked by technical vehicles mounting heavy weapons. They're in a box with just one questionable exit.
Contact north and east. Right. Take your team and bound south toward that ridge.
Perazeni's voice cuts through the gunfire. Wright immediately dismounts with 4 operators, moving in short rushes toward the high ground.
Black, establish base of fire. Cover Wright's movement.
Black's team sets up behind their vehicles, M4S engaging the tree line to suppress enemy positions.
David, secure our 6.
David Johnson and 2 Nigerian partners orient south, watching for flanking movements. The Nigerian partners' vehicles take immediate heavy damage, unarmored trucks offering no protection against PKM rounds that punch through sheet metal like paper. Their formation begins to fragment, some vehicles attempting to push through the blockage west, others reversing east into heavier fire. The language barrier compounds the chaos. Perazeni's interpreter tries coordinating in French while taking cover behind a tire that's already been shot through twice. 20 minutes in, the Americans have established 3 distinct positions across 200 meters of battlefield. Wright's eastern element has reached a shallow depression halfway to the ridgeline, but they're taking mortar fire, impacts walking closer with each adjustment. Black's central group holds behind the vehicles, but ammunition is burning fast against superior numbers. David's southern security team spots the real problem. Enemy reinforcements arriving on motorcycles, flowing around both flanks to complete the encirclement. The trap that started badly is about to become catastrophic. 30 minutes into contact. Wright's eastern element, 4 operators in a depression the size of a living room, has become the enemy's primary target. Mortar rounds bracket their position, while PKM fire from the northern tree line keeps them pinned. Wright checks ammunition. His team started with 210 rounds each, and they're down to half. Wright counts his remaining magazines by feel, muscle memory from 1,000 training iterations at Bragg. His hands are steady, but his mind flashes to his wife, 6 months pregnant with their second.
Black, we need suppressive fire on that tree line or we're not making it to the ridge.
Black's central position behind the vehicles has its own problems. Enemy fighters have occupied buildings 150 meters to their northwest, turning windows into firing ports. Every time Black's team engages the tree line to support Wright, accurate fire from the buildings forces them back into cover. Staff Sergeant Jeremiah Johnson shifts 2 operators to engage the buildings, but now they're defending 3 directions with 6 shooters. The Sahel sun turns their tactical gloves into ovens. Brass casings so hot they burn through uniform fabric pile around their positions. Black spots a wounded Nigerian soldier crawling toward them. He breaks cover, sprints through impacts that shower him with dirt and rocks, and drags the man to safety. The man's eyes lock with Black's. Same look of terror Black saw in his own son's eyes after a nightmare.
You're gonna make it,
Black says in broken French, pressing his wedding ring hand against the wound while handing over his last water. La David's southern team faces a different crisis. The enemy reinforcements, now visible as 40-plus fighters on motorcycles and trucks, are swinging wide through the desert to cut off any escape route. La David's team of 3 can't stop 40. He radios Perozzini.
Enemy platoon strength element moving to block the southern route. We need to move now, or we're not moving at all.
Perozzini processes the tactical reality while rounds crack overhead. Wright's pinned 100 meters east, Black's running low on ammunition in the center. La David's about to be overrun in the south. The math is brutal but clear. They can't hold 3 positions against encirclement.
All elements, collapse on Wright's position. We're pushing for the ridge. Bounding overwatch by teams. La David, you're first.
The movement to consolidate becomes a nightmare. La David's southern team breaks contact first, sprinting across open ground while Black's team provides cover. Halfway to Wright's position, accurate enemy fire forces them to ground. They're stuck in the open, 50 meters from any cover. Black's team tries to move next, but intense fire from 3 directions stops them after 20 meters. The 3 American elements are now strung out across 150 meters of open terrain, each group isolated, ammunition dwindling, sweat stings eyes already burning from cordite smoke. The whine of ricochets off rocks, each one a near miss. That's when the French Mirages arrive. Twin jets screaming overhead at 500 feet, afterburners shaking the ground. The psychological effect is immediate. Enemy fire slackens as fighters dive for cover. But the pilots radio bad news.
Unable to engage, friendlies and enemies too close. No clear target discrimination.
They make intimidation passes, buying seconds, not minutes. Wright uses the suppression to push his eastern team another 50 meters toward the ridge. La David's southern team crawls forward, gaining ground by inches. Black's central element bounds last, leaving disabled vehicles and critical supplies behind. The 3 elements are moving toward convergence, but enemy fighters are already recovering from the airshow, and the Americans are down to their final magazines. What happened next? We can't show it all here without YouTube slapping this video with a warning, but we can show you on Patreon. To watch the full-length video completely uncensored, subscribe to my Patreon page, where there are no restrictions on what we can tell and show you there. Scan the code or use the link in the description now to watch the full video. 45 minutes into the fight, the 3 American elements have converged into 2 groups trying to reach the ridgeline. Wright and Black have linked up with 7 operators total, holding a cluster of rocks 200 meters from their original ambush position. But La David's southern team, himself and 2 Nigerian partners, got cut off during the consolidation attempt. They're isolated 100 meters south, taking concentrated fire from enemy fighters who see the opportunity. Wright and Black's combined element faces a terrible decision. Enemy fighters have pushed between them and La David's position, at least 20 militants in the gap. Wright burns through his second-to-last magazine trying to suppress the enemy advance.
La David's cut off. We need to break through to them.
Black does the math. 7 operators, maybe 60 rounds per man, against 20-plus fighters in prepared positions. It just doesn't work. La David's isolated team fights with controlled desperation. Down to final magazines, they've gone to single shots, making every round count. La David spots enemy fighters maneuvering to flank from the west and shifts his position, but there's only so much 3 can cover. His radio transmission is calm despite the situation. Heavy contact from north and west. We're almost Winchester on ammo, making every shot count. Perozzini, still with the vehicles trying to coordinate support, watches the battlefield fragment through his optic. His 11-man team is now split across 300 meters of desert. Wright and Black's group is pinned by machine gun fire from the northern tree line. La David's team is surrounded on 3 sides. The Nigerian partners have largely scattered, some fighting in isolated pockets, others withdrawing north. The French pilots overhead report more enemy reinforcements approaching from the east, technical vehicles with mounted weapons. Wright makes the call that defines courage.
Black, maintain base of fire. I'm taking 2 guys to get La David.
Before anyone can argue, Wright and 2 volunteers break from cover, sprinting toward La David's position through a wall of incoming fire. They make it 30 meters before the volume forces them to the ground. Wright tries to low crawl forward, but PKM rounds impact inches from his position. Wright tastes dirt as rounds impact inches away. He's screaming La David's name until his throat goes raw. They're forced back, Wright's uniform shredded by rock fragments, face streaked with sweat and Sahel dust. The enemy commander recognizes the Americans are split and culminating. Fighters mass for what looks like a final assault on La David's position. 40-plus militants moving in bounds. La David and his Nigerian partners have maybe 20 rounds between them. The math is about to run out. La David makes his last radio call.
Tell my family I love them.
His voice cracks for the first time.
Tell my daughters their dad fought hard.
In the background, his Nigerian partner is praying in Hausa, both men making peace with what's coming. Then to his teammates.
We hold this position as long as we can. Every second buys the other's time.
Black's group watches through optics as enemy fighters overrun La David's position in waves. The fighting is fierce but brief. 3 defenders with empty weapons against 40. Wright tries another rescue attempt, but Black physically restrains him. Both men's faces streaked with sweat and dust as enemy fighters sweep through La David's former position. The battlefield reality is undeniable. Some fights end with everyone coming home. This isn't one of them. Wright and Black's combined element begins their final displacement toward the ridge, carrying wounded, down to counting individual rounds. 1 hour into contact. Wright and Black's combined element has reached the small ridgeline, barely a meter of elevation, but the only defensible terrain for miles. They count resources, 7 operators, 3 wounded, maybe 30 rounds per man. Enemy forces mass on 3 sides, over 100 fighters who sense victory. The math says this position holds maybe 10 more minutes. But La David Johnson is still out there. Through the dust and smoke, they spot him. Alone now, his 2 Nigerian partners down, conducting a solo fighting withdrawal through the scrubland. The 25-year-old mechanic from Miami Gardens moves tactically from cover to cover, still fighting, still thinking. La David moves through the scrubland, whispering his daughter's names like a prayer. Alicia and Lashi. Each name keeps him moving when his body wants to quit. Enemy fighters pursue in groups, but La David uses the terrain, making them pay for every meter. Wright counts muzzle flashes. La David's engaging targets from multiple positions, making one operator look like 3. Black organizes what fire support they can provide.
Conserve ammunition. Pick your shots. Cover La David's movement.
The ridgeline erupts in disciplined fire. Single shots and short bursts, trying to suppress dozens of enemy fighters with limited rounds. La David gains ground, moving toward a vehicle hulk 200 meters from the ridge. If he can reach it, if they can hold the ridge, if ammunition lasts, maybe, just maybe, they link up. Then Wright spots the real threat. Enemy technical vehicles pushing from the east, heavy weapons that will turn their meter-high ridge into powder. He makes the hardest call of his life.
Perazini, take the wounded and break contact west. Black, Jeremiah, and I will hold here. Buy you time.
Perazini starts to protest, but Wright cuts him off.
That's an order. Someone has to make it out to report what happened here.
Perazini takes 3 operators and begins displacement west, using the last of their smoke grenades for concealment. Wright, Black, and Jeremiah Johnson stay on the ridge, the rear guard methodically engaging targets, making their last ammunition count. Jeremiah Johnson, the chemical operations specialist who wasn't supposed to be on this patrol, takes Wright's last magazine.
For my kids,
he says simply. They both know what he means. Every second they hold is another second the others get closer to home. Through his optic, Wright watches La David reach the vehicle hulk, still fighting, still alive. The young sergeant has survived 40 minutes alone against impossible odds. Wright's rifle runs dry. He thinks of his father, also Army, who taught him that warriors don't get to choose their end, only how they meet it. The end comes quickly. Enemy technical vehicles reach effective range, heavy weapons tearing into the ridge position. Wright, Black, and Jeremiah Johnson fight until ammunition runs out, then continue resisting with captured enemy weapons until they are overwhelmed. La David, isolated at the vehicle, conducts a final stand that will later be reconstructed from shell casings and video evidence. 21 rounds fired in a perfect defensive pattern, engaging threats from multiple directions until his weapon runs empty. He never stopped fighting. Perazini's element, using the precious minutes the rearguard purchased with their lives, reaches French positions. 4 other survivors from various positions link up. 7 of 11 Americans make it out. The immediate fight is over, but the mission isn't. For the next 48 hours, American and French forces will search under fire, recovering their fallen brothers. 4 American operators gave everything, so 7 could live. They held impossible positions against overwhelming odds, bought time with their lives, and proved that American warriors might be outnumbered, but never outmatched. 4 months later, Maishia Johnson gives birth to La David Jr., who will grow up knowing his father through 21 shell casings that proved a mechanic from Miami Gardens was as brave as any warrior who ever lived. At Fort Bragg, Wright's son still asks when Daddy's coming home from his work trip. Bye for now.